Wicked watches and fancy dress doppelgangers featuring today's horrific Halloween special, featuring the Minecraft Nautilus from Patek, Second latest Phantom releases, and Tudor have got a brand new FXD GMT, plus tons more in this show, with treacherous treats aplenty. First thing we want to do is to check in with Dave, make sure he's okay, and obviously I'm from the future. Dave, are you from the past?
I am just leaning into Teddy Ruxpin because I mean Gavin needs it in his life, so I've gone full suit, orange t-shirt, I've got the body vest on, even got the glasses on, and I have blue eyes naturally, so I'm there. I should have kind of put my hair up in a spike, but frankly I couldn't really be bothered. But you know, other than that, you look like you've come off of a TV studio set, it has to be said.
Why, thank you. And I'm using a set piece that you donated to the cause a couple of years ago. Remember that, Dave?
I do remember that. Have you actually ever like paired it with your Bluetooth and been out in public with it, or do you keep that for the bedroom?
Just keep it for bedroom activities. And we should be telling you that this episode will be on YouTube, so check that out if you wish. You'll see our fancy dress, but you'll also see us in the show notes. And there's a few other things to let you know about. We're recording a couple of shows back to back because Dave is going to be on his international travels again. I am just back from Hong Kong. We don't even have time in this episode to talk about that. We're going to go Halloween crazy. But in the next edition, next week, our news show, you'll find out all about that. But there's been a lot of things going on, and we'll probably start with something that isn't quite as frightful.
Tudor have, surprise, surprise, it has to be said, brought out another version of their ever-popular Pelagos FXD, this time a GMT version, but of course still leaning heavily into the Marine Nationale collab, if we want to call it that. I mean, is it an official collab? I think officially the French are okay with it. There might have been a little bit of a hiccup with maybe some communications about a US naval variant, maybe about a year or so ago, but we'll move past that. So they have brought out a GMT version of it, obviously. They've had the time-only versions, they've had the chronograph versions, and they've had a few different themes, if I remember rightly. They've had the sailing variant with Ulysse, they've had a cycling version with the Tudor Pro Cycling team, they've had the black dial, which is maybe or maybe not US Navy inspired, they've obviously got the blue dial, which is very much the original and Marine Nationale version, and they now have, for the Marine Nationale Naval Aviation Forces, I believe, a GMT version. I think this one is up there with the top two best of all of the ones they've released so far. I really like it. Quite an interesting colour combination. Lots of features you would expect. Grade 2 titanium case. You've got a titanium bezel but with a ceramic insert and a kind of mauve brown beigey type colour palette to it. You've got a couple of different colours of lume. One for the bezel and the GMT hand and one for the kind of indices for the time telling as well. I think this is a great looking watch, it has to be said. Not killer money either. Not entry level, it has to be said, but coming in around the $4,600 US. So I'm going to be guessing the low 4,000s in the UK or in euros. It's not a limited edition, so you'll be able to get your hands on it. Of course, it's got that in-house movement. It's Tudor. What do you expect? And it's got a strap that's kind of inspired by that green naval aviation flight suit as well. All in all, I think this is a bit of a win. I think they've come back from some of the less attractive ones, I would say, in my opinion, over the last couple of releases. Ricky, do you like this one, or what do you think?
No, this one is not for me, and I'm going to do something else that is quite familiar for people that watch Star Trek The Next Generation, and it's called the Picard Manoeuvre. It's where his top gets all ruffled up like this, and every so often, he just has to pull it down a little bit, which is different from the Riker Manoeuvre, where he climbs onto a chair backwards. That's something else. But this one, the watch, getting back to what we're here for today, do I like it? It's okay. It's a little bit vintage Rolex, the font that's used on the bezel. Not quite super happy with it myself. I don't know. I don't really like their FXD stuff. I know that you've got ones, they've had the welded lugs in the past. They've dripped out releases. I know Ted, who listens to the show and has been on a number of times, he actually collected different versions of the FXD that were year after year. But this one, not for me, Dave. Not for me at all.
Well, it's definitely my colour palette because it's got a lot of browns in it, so it'll look good on that teddy bear wrist of mine, you know. I don't need to worry about that whole, you know, pulling down and keeping myself straight and smart because I'm a teddy bear, so it's all good. But anyway, there's been a couple of scarier releases that maybe fall more into theme of this whole Halloween-focused show, so maybe we should start off with the first one. And one of them's not really, I don't think, supposed to be a Halloween watch, but it certainly gave people a bit of a fright.
It did. and this got released, I think, as I was travelling across to Hong Kong, so I was trying to catch up in amongst jet lag and amongst changing planes and destinations. And when I arrived at Hong Kong for Dubai Watch Week's International Horology Forum 10, everybody was talking about this thing. And this is what I would call a dress-up watch. We're going to talk about different watches in the show that are maybe variations or costumed version of more expensive watches. So if you dress up as a Marvel character or somebody else, you're a pale imitation. So we're going to see if these are pale imitations or not. But this thing here from Patek, it looks like a Minecraft-themed Nautilus.
Well, yes, and this is a watch that did manage to slip past the censor's net. It got out there before I think it was supposed to, and it did the rounds on social media, and there was a bit of a furore going on. Is it real? Is it a mock-up? Maybe people saying, well, their text isn't quite right, and the slogan's not quite right, and we think this is a Photoshop job, but it actually turned out that it was indeed true. As to whether it was an intended leak or not, I think probably not. It seems that a magazine published a few days early and it escaped into the wild, and that probably did upset a few people over at Patek, but it certainly got them plenty of airtime and news cycles, shall we say. But indeed, it did turn out to be true. The Cubitus, this I believe is one of the first releases from them, or a new family of releases, in something like 25 years or something of that ilk. So Patek, known for being a little conservative, I don't think they've stayed overly conservative with this release. Certainly quite a lot of strong opinions about its looks and aesthetic.
As we've said a million times before, if a watch tells the time, is accurate and doesn't dig into your wrists, it has succeeded as a watch. Just like if a car will get you to your destination, it is a car. From that, there are variances, there are looks, there are price points, there's luxurious feels, there's material sciences that depends on how much money you want to spend, what you get on the wrist, and how heavy it's going to be. I don't mind the watch. I don't have a problem with it at all. I have seen so many people jumping all over it, saying it is just like the code 1159. Remember when AP brought this out? I see this differently, because from what I've read, Patek hasn't said that this is a holy grail, this is the new whatever, the new Nautilus, because the code 1159 was dictated and presented as such. It was the new Royal Oak. And the way they explained that to the public was, well, you know, when Gerald Genta brought this thing out, the Royal Oak, back in the 70s, nobody really thought it was that good. And it became great. And that's what's going to happen with Code 1159. Didn't quite happen. Obviously, it got a little bit better over the years. People warmed up to it. Great looking watch and all the rest of it. But it was the fanfare, it was the BS that was put behind it. This one, it doesn't offend me. The only one that actually does offend me is the one that has got the subdials, and there's one crushed right down in the bottom right hand side. Apart from that, it's a nice enough looking watch. It looks completely different from the Nautilus. They've completely squared off the edges, a little bit like the iPhone. They'll do it rounded, and then they'll make it straight, and then they'll make it rounded again, Dave.
I think I tend to agree with you. I've been lucky enough to get a bit of a glimpse, not any real long hands-on one, but I got a bit of a glimpse of one on my travels, and I have to say, I think you're right. It's very different to the Nautilus in the respect of it's a bit more in your face in terms of edges, corners and angles, whereas the Nautilus, let's be honest, it's been out a long time. It was one of the most sought after watches in the world, and even is to this day. This, I think, will do the classic that you expect from Patek. It'll come out, some will love it, some will hate it. It'll still be super successful. Maybe the man himself, maybe a bit directly said, yeah, most of the people complaining about this are the people that will never be able to either afford or get one, which is slightly challenging as a statement, but it's probably not that far from the truth, that has to be said. Yeah, there's a couple of versions. You've got two time-only versions, or time and date versions, should I say. You've got a stainless steel variant, and you've got a two-tone version with the stainless steel and the gold. And you've got the all-singing, dancing platinum version, which is the one that I don't think you're too keen on, Ricky. That, I believe, has got Moonface indication, a big calendar, and it also, if I remember correctly, has a weekday indication on it. It's a little bit squished and squashed for me as well. The kind of time and date, certainly, stainless steel version is the one that If I was having to choose between the three, which I have to say I will not be choosing between the three, but if I had to, it would be the time and date stainless steel version for me. It's also the considerably more affordable of the three options, coming in round about the $42,000 US, whereas at the opposite end of the scale, the platinum one pushing towards $85,000 US. Of course, that is if you can get one at retail, which will be somewhat of a challenge for a considerable period of time, if not forever. And no doubt, I believe they are already selling on the pre-owned market for quite a premium, it has to be said. It is classic Patek. The finishing's beautiful, the quality of work's beautiful, if indeed that's what you like, that kind of styling of Patek. Really, you can't complain. If you don't like the aesthetic, well, were you ever going to buy one in the first place? And if the answer's no, probably maybe just move on and find a watch that you like.
Totally agree. If you don't like it, move on. There are many other timepieces that you may well end up with on the wrist at different price points. But across in Hong Kong, even Waco, when he was presenting some of the talks, he was giving it a bit of a kicking, as were the other journalists that were there. And you know, it felt a little bit like a bit of a pile-on, and I think that's what I saw on social media. A lot of memes, a lot of things created, lots of quotes from the guy at the top at Patek. But hey, if it's not for you, you can move on with something else. And something else we're going to move on to right now is a wrist check. And I'm going to double fist today, because I think the things that I have got with me, you're going to want to check out. So the first thing is, while I was across in Hong Kong, again, this will be in our next show, I got the pleasure of spending a day with Vishal and the team at Spinnaker. We've obviously worked with them hand in hand for a couple of years, no pun intended, you know, hands on a watch and all the rest of it. But they are just so down to earth for such a large organisation that puts out a lot of watches. He did tell me how many, but I've been sworn to secrecy. I'm not allowed to divulge how many zeros after the one they produce per year, but it's quite a lot. And he's teamed up with Second. I think this is for the third outing. So the first one had a grey bezel. It's called the 50 Phantoms. The second one was more blue, and it was a bit of a playful, mirthful take from the 50 Fathoms from Blancpain, but with 50 little baby phantoms on the dial. There is a variation of that out again with a different colourway, but he's also brought out the one that I have on wrist. And I'm going to tell you to look in the show notes, because the pictures will not do it justice here in the studio. You'll want to have a look and see what I'm talking about here. Well, unlike the first iteration, this one does not have 50 phantoms on the dial. They're actually underneath the shiny top coat of the bezel there. And this one is called the no apparitions version, because a little bit like the Blancpain, which said no radiation, this has got a little ghosty on the dial. Not that kind of ghosty, Dave, but it's got a little ghosty on the dial down at 6 o'clock position with a little cross through it. And that is a very Scottish joke.
That's definitely a Scottish joke, and it has to be said, that brings back a conversation I had a mere week ago about some of the unexplained things in life. So if you're not sure what we're talking about, the internet is your friend, but you may not thank us.
You may not thank us indeed, but this is a cracking little watch. It's a smaller size than before. It comes on a choice of bracelet or rubber. They both come in the box, and I smuggled this one across from Hong Kong, so I did not bring it in the box. I did not bring it with the bracelet. I brought it with the rubber strap that matches the bezel quite nicely, and it has got that vintage style of dial on there. Faux patinaed lume on there. Simona actually commented and said that the 12 o'clock position looks a little bit like a coffin. You can tell that she is born close to Transylvania. But this is a cool little watch, very funky. It has got the Spinnaker logo there, and on the actual keepers, you can see the little phantoms from Second. So cracking little watch, very inexpensive, probably none left. As I was over there and leaving their offices around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they were getting ready to launch at 6 p.m. So I'm pretty sure they're all gone. But as with all Second units, you'll probably be able to find it on the secondary market if you have a wee look on eBay, Chrono24, different places like that. But yeah, this is super cool. Dave, should you do your one and then I'll jump in from a second wrist check?
Absolutely no chance. I'm not being that meat in your sandwich, so you can carry on and I will follow through.
Well, since Dave is a party pooper, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this 50 Phantoms. On the back, you have got a loomed up little ghosty in the centre, and my favourite part of the entire watch is the fact that the rotor has been turned into almost a scythe, like one of those torture devices from medieval times, perhaps in a Hammer House of Horror film. That's a bit of a tongue twister, especially since I've not recorded a show in a couple of weeks, where you would see somebody strapped down on one of those hellish little things. They couldn't move, and this blade would just work its way, swinging back and forward like a pendulum until eventually it would rip through somebody's torso. So on the rotor here, you can see there is actually some blood. That is a really good touch, and again, just showing the way that the guys at Spinnaker, when they collab with somebody, they really do put a lot of energy and effort in. And we've obviously done a couple of watches with them. And stay tuned, because you never know what might happen in the future. But anyway, swapping from this one to another one on the wrist. And this is from the guys a little bit closer to home. It is Mr. Jones Watches from down south in England. They collaborate with a number of artists, they always do, and they bring out some really cool watches. This one, again, features a little ghost, but I don't know, Dave, have you seen this one, or should I explain more about it?
I've not seen this one in person, but I will see it this coming weekend, it has to be said. But yes, you should explain more, because at the end of the day, it's on your wrist and in front of your very eyes.
So this little unit from Mr. Jones Watches is a collaborative piece, and it's got a funny name, but we'll get to that at the end. The difference between this one and our other watches, because the case shape is similar, the way it works is very similar. It's a little bit like the lazy afternoon, the lazy evening, where you have got mystery dials, not mystery hands, but acetate discs, where you can tell the time in very unusual and intriguing ways, playing into the art style but at a very low cost. So here you've got a little guy who is looking for something. It happens he is a ghost hunter, he's looking for a ghost, and that is sitting around about the near 3 o'clock position at the moment. And as he goes round, he's looking, the ghost is chasing. So he's actually the minute hand, and he lights everything up as he goes around. There's a fox he's just gone past, and eventually he catches up with the ghost, and you can see the ghost in all its glory. And for anyone that's trying to figure out how this works, it shouldn't take you too long, but there is an acetate disc with a cutout, and that acetate disc has got around about a 20% blue colour to it, so everything looks like nighttime apart from the cutout. And then underneath you've got another disc, that is obviously the hour hand, and that is the little ghost that rotates around. So when he comes around at this point, you can actually see him, and then he will continue on his merry way. This is really inexpensive. It's obviously a quartz number, but it comes in at less than 300 quid. I think it's around about the mid 200s to sort of around about 270. And Mr. Jones, they just do fantastic watches all year long, not just at Halloween, not just at Christmas. So this is a great little piece. What do you think of it, Dave?
I haven't seen that one in hand, but as I say, I should see it this weekend. And as you've mentioned, Mr. Jones always banging out absolutely amazing watches of their own design and collaborative efforts as well at very affordable prices. And yes, most of them are quartz powered, but they are Swiss quartz movements, so a good quality movement in there as well. And as you mentioned, in the kind of 250-ish pound mark, 270, 280 US dollars, so very affordable. And the quality of them very much belies their attractive price points.
Yeah, so this one is called the Night Howl, not Night Owl. And it's a collaboration with a French author and illustrator, Xavier Broche, hopefully pronouncing that one correctly. And this one is available. It is on their website right now. I don't believe it's limited edition, so go have a look if you like it and you can grab it. And it doesn't have to be a Halloween watch. This can be a watch that you could be wearing any point at all, and it is a talking point. That's what we love about watches. They are the vessel that allow conversations to happen. Right, Dave, I've chatted enough. Your turn.
Okay, well, you said I'm a party pooper, but as I am a party pooper, I'm a bear today, and bears, as we know, shit in the woods. So I'm going to go on with my wrist check, and I am wearing, surprise, surprise, for any guesses? Yes, David's wearing his Halloween-themed Konstantin Chaikin Joker because, well, it's Halloween-themed, isn't it, at the end of the day? This is maybe not quite as Halloween-themed as another piece that he put out in 88 units of limited edition, which was the Halloween edition, the pumpkin watch, a few years ago, but it's as near as I'm going to get at this point in time. Now, after I have shown you that, if you want to follow through, like I've just done in the woods, check out what a ghosty means.
Right, well, we've covered the wrist check, we've covered watches that we've got here. We've actually got another couple of watches that brands had sent in that I have sat on for a while, and they're very uncomfortable, so I'm glad to get them out of there. And the pooping will continue until all of them have been delivered. There are a number of great watches out there from people like Dan Henry. He's a collector of note and renown. He's been around for a long time, and he would recreate certain watches of the past in quartz, mecha quartz, at very inexpensive price points. TGV back in the day used to talk quite highly of him. Don't watch TGV anymore, so I don't know if he still does. But here are a couple of watches, not from Dan Henry, but other brands that have got looky-likey costume dress-up watches that resemble something that's either out of production or is massively more expensive. And these things come in about would say in the homage category, but they don't have blank dials, they don't have fake logos, they've actually got a different brand on it and a slightly different take on things. So the first watch I'm going to talk about is from a brand called Baltony. They are foreign from a far-flung place, piece that together if you wish. And as I said, this is based on the Americano, I believe it's called, from Vacheron Constantin, the 1921. And this is a quartz number with a sub-second that is, well, if you're looking at the video, you'll see it sits on screen around about the 3 o'clock position. But the whole point of this watch is it's a driver style watch. So when it's on wrist, you can tell the time without having to kink your wrist round away. Really nice dial on this one. Again, for the price point that I'll get to shortly, you've got cool striations on the dial. You have got a very nice little, I don't know, concentric circles on the sub-dial. Different coloured hands. You've got blue on the sub-dial and you've got shiny stainless steel silver coloured in the centre. Little cutouts, and the dial is actually etched. It is not a print, it is not inked, it has actually got a cutout. It's not a sandwich dial, but it's close to it. It's almost engraved quite deeply. You've got a crown, which is usually at the 3 o'clock position. It's at the 12 o'clock position, but in actual fact, it is more around about the 2 o'clock if this was a normal watch. So this is a very inexpensive little number. It is featuring a Seiko VD78 quartz movement, 316L stainless steel, 44mm lug to lug, and the case diameter is 38mm on the diagonal because it's a square shape, but it sits diagonally on the wrist. This is the first one out. Dave, what do you think of this one?
Has to be said, if you like that Americana look, then this very much could be for you. Obviously, the Vacheron is the OG in some respects, but is at a significantly higher price point. It has to be said also a much more significantly comprehensive mechanical timepiece. But if you're looking for that general aesthetic, classy and dressy, but a little left field at the same time, this might be one for you. Now, what is that magic price, Ricky?
You want to know the price? And this little darling, this is only $124 US. As I said, from a far-flung place, therefore it is inexpensive. It might even be direct from the manufacturer and the factory out there. So yeah, really cool, very well put together, especially at that price point. You cannot beat it. And it's got a look and a, well, let's just say that it has convinced people that didn't know what it was, that it was something else. So, on the costume department, it is done quite well. 54 grams, 50 meters of water resistant. It comes with a black and brown leather strap, 20mm lug, so you can obviously change that out, and it has even got a sapphire crystal on the front. Not bad going, Dave. Should I move on to the next one?
You should, because a bit like the recording, this one might have a bit of a kind of feel of a crash about it.
Well, you're right, Dave. This is from a brand that we cannot pronounce. We've tried, and I think it's Exiquo, but, you know, spelling will be in the show notes and all that. And this reminds me of the Cartier Crash. This is called the Melting Watch. It may also be from, or worn by, or interpreted from a painting, a bit of art that is a little bit famous. But this watch, again, it comes in at a very low price point, featuring a Ronda quartz movement. I think it's the 751. And it is hard to tell the time on, but it looks great on the wrist. This one has got a curved sapphire on the front. I believe it's plastic, domed plastic acrylic, a little bit like some of your Seikos and even your more vintage inspired Speedmasters. Stepped dial arrangement with the crazy Roman numerals round the side and the tiny handset in the middle. The crown, it looks like I suppose a guitar or a kidney bean, but the crown on it is an absolute to get out, even if you do have decent fingernails, of which I do not, and it contours and sits on the wrist really nicely because of that bulbous shape and the curve on the back. Cool strap with the logo inside of both the brand and the model. And this one, Dave, how much does this one cost?
It's 520 Swiss francs. So again, falling very much into the affordable and pocket money type watch category. Maybe I shouldn't say pocket money because 500 is still a bit of chunk change, it has to be said. But yes, definitely in the more affordable category of watches.
Yep, so again, check show notes if you want to see pictures of these guys. This is a couple of watches sent in from a couple of brands that have been hassling me for a while to talk about these watches, but we've had a backlog. We've been busy, boys, And now is the correct time to talk about costumed timepieces that dress up and look $1 million while still remaining pocket friendly.
Okay, before we move on to more watches, we should go back in time a little bit. You've got a little spaceship, so that should help and aid you to get there, but you had a little bit of a chat with Katia from the Alliance of British Clock and Watchmakers about an event that's coming up in a few weeks and also an event that's coming up next year.
Well, this is the part of the show where we bring a friend on, and it's somebody that's been on many times before. It's obviously Katia from the Alliance of British Watch and Clockmakers. She is a familiar face to people that have seen her at events in the past. She's a familiar voice to people that are listening to podcast in audio format. And although this is an insert in a show, this is recorded in the past. That's why things might look a little bit different, depending if we're dropping this in our Halloween edition, which I think we are. We're not dressed up. Well, we're dressed up. I'm a podcaster. She's an event organiser, plus many, many other things. But she's here today to talk about a couple of things that are up and coming. Obviously, we had Watchmakers Day this year, which was a massive success. So obviously, it will happen again. That's coming in a few short months. But there's something rather soon, something down in England that is an association with another media company that we work with behind the scenes and various different things. We've had them on the show before, and that's obviously Time and Tide. Started over in Oz with Andrew McCutcheon and co. He's been on the show before. We've met him many times. We've featured in different things. And they have got something of interest down south that you might like to attend because a lot of other familiar faces from the Scottish Watches universe will be there. But the first thing to do is to say hello to Katia. It's been a while. How are things going?
Hello, everyone. It's very good. By the way, I love Halloween. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. I'm from the Soviet Union and we had no fun whatsoever. So any opportunity for fun. And of course, my friends knowing I organize events, everyone expects every year bigger and bigger production. So, things get built, brought, made, and I know they're all anticipating. So
So this has been recorded in the past to be released on Halloween. Have you got an idea what you're dressing up as this year?
Well, actually, I managed to ruin the dress. I'm so bad with, some of the housework. I washed this dress. I was supposed to be the Ring, the horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
Notwithstanding most of the kids that come under 10, but I think, scare them good and proper. The one that comes from the
Out of the TV.
well. Yeah, that it's a properly freaky film, isn't it? I haven't cut my hair for the whole year to get that brush. That's how serious I'm about Halloween.
Wow.
But the dress got messed up, so...
But the thing is, the dress is messed up anyway, so the more it is, the better it'll be.
I was properly messed up. It's like big time messed up. Yeah.
Fair enough.
This event, it also has a spreadsheet, the Halloween at the Ulysse house. But British Watchmakers Day has a lot longer spreadsheet, and it's all going full steam ahead, the planning. In fact, we've just announced the lineup.
Oh, we love a good lineup.
44 brands for 2025. Free club member tickets are now live as well. So please, if you're club member and you haven't booked it yet, go ahead and book your free ticket. If you're not a club member, please join us. We are, as you know, trade body. We make no profit on the event. We spend lots of effort on it, and we're just doing it for the watch community, for the brands, and any of your membership supports us and just allows us to carry on, make this show bigger, and hopefully do other shows as well. So please join. We've added quite a few benefits to the membership as well. It's only £55 a year. Doing proper sales pitch here. Yeah, Ricky usually does the job.
The thing with the Alliance is people need to think of it as one organisation with two sides. You've got the side that deals with us. So we are collectors. We enjoy watches. We buy them. We love hearing about brands. And that is the community club side of things. That's where you join, you're supporting a fantastic cause, and you also get lots of fringe benefits that if you calculated the add-up cost of these things, it's way in excess of the joining fee. So I believe you get print subscriptions, you get digital subscriptions, you get free tickets to events, all kinds of things. So run us through, somebody that hasn't signed up before, what is it they get?
Well, first of all, you get priority access to British Watchmakers Day, ahead of general public, and tickets is free. And then do please reserve one slot, because last year caused lots of trouble. Just so more people click and come. And then you get print subscriptions to Oracle Time for a year, digital GMT, Europa Star print. We've just added Watch Pro. Thank you very much, Watch Pro, for print subscription as well for all our club members. You get retail jewelry discount, and we've also launched something quite cool recently. Actually, every month we do, it's called monthly drop. So one of our trade member brands gives us gives our club members a discount. It's like 10-20% off their watches. So we've run quite a few of them already, and that will be every month. And there's some kind of quite a good few bigger brands lined up a bit later in the year. So yeah, do join us, please. But I thought it would be a good idea. I get so many questions because I'm on the receiving side from the website from all of the questions, and quite a few about British Watchmakers Day. So I thought, let's do, because everyone listens to Scotch watches, right? We'll do frequently asked questions, and then I can update everyone on what's going on.
Sounds good to me. Let's go for it.
When is the event? Come on. It's 8th of March, 2025, Saturday. Please put it in your diary. We look forward to seeing everyone.
And that is a one-day show. It's not split over a weekend, and you want to make sure, well, you know what? Make a weekend of it. Come across to the show, enjoy the watches, and then enjoy the splendour of London. I try and not go to London as much as possible. The amount of brands that get in touch with me and say, hey, you're in the UK. I know we're Swiss. We've got a place down in London. Pop in and say hello to the guys down there. Not realising that coming from Scotland, that is a 2-day affair. Because you have to either travel by car, don't recommend it, train, more expensive, or by plane, round about the same amount of time once you factor in security and all those kind of things for transport. So if you're coming to London, make a spectacle of it. There are so many cool things to do, to see, and there are watch boutiques, watch shops. They're all very happy because when I came down this year, I went round the Burlington Arcade and various other places, all the boutiques, and they were welcoming. They thought, oh, there's a lot of influx of watch enthusiasts at the moment. Let's roll out the red carpet. So don't worry about Watchmakers Day just being a one-day show. You'll enjoy it. It's more saturated. It's more compacted. You'll get more benefit from it. It's not watered down like some other events. And the actual ambience, the atmosphere that you'll have when you go in is second to none. And then you can do all the other cool things. Sorry I butted in. I thought I would just mention that.
I think it's a great idea, yeah. But don't hit the boutiques before British Watchmakers Day, because we've got lots of special edition watches this year.
Next year,
2025, yes, next year. We had 20 special editions last year, 2024, yeah. But I think it'll be quite a lot more. I'm not allowed to talk about them, but I do know about some. Please don't pin me down anywhere. The brands will kill me, but there are some pretty amazing, incredible special editions that will be there. Just available on that one day. All right, question number 2. Which brands will be there? So we've got 44 brands, and there are a few new brands. Well, they're not new brands, they're very long-established brands, actually, but they're new to the show. That is Bremont, Bamford, and we've also got a couple of quite young brands, one called Anoma and APR exhibiting.
Well, there's something quite big to say. The fact that you've retained all the brands, and off air you did mention the reasons that a couple aren't coming back, and it's just due to conflicting times, personal circumstances, things like that. So the retention factor and the way that everybody has been so happy what happened this year. And there was a lot of folks that poo-pooed the idea ahead of time, maybe wrote some scathing things, some nasty things, and are eating their own words. So no doubt they'll be turning up looking to have a look and get in on the action next time.
Yeah, the door is open. Just come and feature the watches and the brands. That's why we're here. What else have we got? Are you going to sort out decent coffee? Yes, decent coffee, definitely. Sort out decent coffee. There'll be cheap, proper barista coffee. Quite a lot of people asked about coffee. I think they needed to keep going throughout the day. Yeah. There was another question about food. Will there be more meat options? But I thought I'll go back to that person individually because I need to know what kind of meat he's after. We're trying to make the event, great in many ways. So even the small comments will look after them.
Good.
Will there be merch? Yes, we're sorting out merchandise. I think last year we didn't want to overstretch, but we're doing 100%. If you have any suggestions, send us an email through britishwatchmakers.com, as that hasn't been ordered yet. What are people after usually, Ricky? Cap, t-shirt?
It depends. We've kept away from doing the merch because I looked into it and it seemed like a job in itself. And we have been asked, I have got somewhere around here a Scottish Watches mug, and it was a sample, and I never ordered any more because I thought I don't really want to be selling stuff and putting cups in boxes and sending them and dealing with something get cracked, something get broken. Something we might revisit in the future. But people like mugs. Obviously, coffee and watches go very well. Coffees, watches, cars. That is your sort of your triple bill, your holy grail. That's one that maybe people that are listening to the show just now, seeing us on YouTube, they can let us know in the comments, or they can drop us an email. And if they've got suggestions of things that they would like, yeah, that'd be a good one. But the problem is, when you do merch, you get into what do you do next? The first one is obviously drop a logo on things. Everybody loves that. But then the next thing is, how do we do a new design? Because somebody maybe wants another mug or another t-shirt or another baseball cap. Do you take a snapshot in time and do an amalgamation of all the brands that are within the alliance itself and have all their logos right round about, and then the Watchmakers Alliance? I've got loads of ideas. You shouldn't ask me questions like that.
A massive mug. We've got 102 trade members now.
Yeah, that's another thing that we wanted to talk about. You've managed to crack the big 100. And before, the last time you were on, you'd mentioned that, we're just about at that tipping point. That is phenomenal. So that's 100 people, 100 brands, 100 companies within the UK that are dealing with watchmaking, watch creation and watch design. Who knew that a few years ago?
I know. I think when they just started, when I wasn't involved yet, I think they're thinking, we'll get 30, that'll be amazing. But and then we got to 50 and it's like, well, that's great. I mean, how far can we go with it? And then, I said, well, let's get to 100. And here we are, which is brilliant. 102. Yeah, so really excited about that. Yeah, I think one very important question, the last one is, how do I get the tickets? So, club member tickets are now available. Please book it or join the club. You're supporting your favorite brands, because we're not a commercial organization. So all the promotions that we do on the website, on our Instagram, it's all free for the brands. It gives opportunity for the smaller ones to do something where, they don't have to pay through our channels. And, that's what we do. And a lot of brands that are huge now, they've all started quite small and they needed some support. So yeah, please join the club and reserve your ticket. General public tickets will release a lot closer to the show. But we did sell out last year, if you remember, Ricky. We had quite a few people on the waiting list.
There were big queues. I remember big queues, and I thought, I'm glad that I'm press and I've got full access. And I was here the day before to speak to people, because the day before I thought it'd be a little bit quieter because people were setting up their stalls. But if you've seen the video, if you've heard the podcast I recorded, it was chaos. And then the next day, the actual show day itself was ultra chaos. So come early, make sure you've got your ticket. Did you mention the price of the ticket for people that aren't club members, for those few that aren't?
Are we keeping them same? £10.
You can't say fairer than that, because if you look at any other event around the UK and further afield, £10 is probably the price you would pay to check your quota into the cloakroom. And I hear that there's something else happening rather soon.
Yes, a lot sooner. You want to see us and British brands sooner. There's a British weekend happening on the 23rd and 24th of November at the new Time and Tide Discovery Studio in London. The tickets actually sold out within a day. They went on, they're free tickets. They went on at 12 p.m, I think, and then they were just gone by the end of the day. There's quite big demand for the tickets, and thanks to everyone who booked. It's a lot more intimate event than British Watchmakers Day. You'll be able to see the brands, meet the founders, have a few drinks, a few canapes. I think it'll be quite fun. Time Tide make it quite fun always, don't they? And we're looking forward to it a lot. We'll help Time Tide promote the event.
Well, I think this is the part where we have to say goodbye. But before you go, maybe you can just give us a little bit of a sneaky peek into who the big guys are that are going to be coming along next year to the big event. Obviously, the Time and Tide event is sold out. Kudos if you managed to get an access ticket to that one. Commiserations if you didn't. There will be something in the future for you. But the big ticket item next year is obviously the main event itself. And you had premium spaces this time around, and you obviously had lots of spaces for all the other brands that wanted perhaps not to have such an amount of people, so many staff there talking to folks. Who are going to be the big players then that we can keep an eye out for next year?
I'm very pleased to say that Roger Smith will be there again with his team and bigger presence as well. We've been discussing which watches he's going to bring, so that's always a very special moment of the show. We're going to have Bremont this time with quite big presence as well, so we're excited that they're there. everyone, all of the big brands from last year will be there. Studio Underdog, Vertex, William Wood, Duckworth Prestec, Fears, and most of them will be doing a special edition watch, which I'm super excited about.
Got to be careful you don't let the cat out the bag on that front, because we're all sworn to secrecy there. But it's shaping up to be something even better than this year. I keep saying last year. This year, the last show, because that one was a standout, and I still bring it up when I'm talking to people and they ask, where should I go? What should I check out? What things should I put in my diary for the year ahead? And now it has been added. So now we say the first thing you want to do in the year is British Watchmakers Day, then Watches and Wonders, then Geneva Watch Days, and then Dubai Watch Week. So we've now got 4 things, not equally split across the different quarters of the year, but 4 fantastic things. And if you can't get to them all, at least try and get to one of them. And if you're in the UK, British Watchmakers Day is the easiest, and I'd say the most natural flow, because the people that are involved in it, they're not there fighting with each other. They're not big conglomerates. They're not owned by some of the biggest luxury houses in the world. They're all helping each other behind the scenes. They collaborate. They point people in the right direction. There's no red herrings involved. Sometimes there might be a couple of salmon fishes, but apart from that, it's all good stuff. So we're at the end of our time here, Katja. Always a pleasure to bring you on, have a chat about what's been going on, seeing those figures increase when lots of doom and gloom seems to be floating around in the industry. UK seems to be doing okay. Maybe we'll get Rolex to move back here. But that is us. If people want to check out what you guys are up to, what is the Instagram? What is the web address?
BritishWatchmakers.com. Instagram is the same, at British Watchmakers. Thanks very much for having us, Ricky, again, and look forward to seeing you at the show.
Well, it'll be fantastic to come down and see you guys. Probably we'll catch up beforehand at some point, because, you know, there is a little bit of time. I think maybe just under 6 months or thereabouts. But always good to catch up with you guys, see what's happening, and we'll catch you again soon.
Great. Bye. Thank you.
Okay, that's enough of that. Ricky's managed to quickly get changed back into his Halloween costume because he's back in control of that starship, and we should move on with the next watch. And it's Swatch Watch. No, not the Swatch Watch Halloween editions, because we've already talked about them. But of course, another MoonSwatch that's come into the fold, but they've taken a little bit of a different stance in this. Ricky, have you actually had a chance to look or read about this, or are you just going to throw it back at me?
I think I've done enough talking in this episode. I've really been quite interactive, I would say, especially watches on the desk. This has been a show where it's not just press releases and pictures. We've got to handle watches, we've got to see them in real life, and got to experience them over the course of weeks, if not a couple of months with some of these. And I did see information dropping today on the new MoonSwatch. It's been a while since they've done something there. Even listening to what people have been saying in the background, since they announced they were going to be selling them online, having promised to do that ages ago, and dipping their toe into the Blancpain, the 50 Fathoms and all the rest of it with the Scuba, they've come back the way to the MoonSwatch, and they really are milking it. This new one, it looks okay. It's not quite as cool as the Moonphase versions in black and white that we talked about a number of months ago. But yeah, Dave, you can talk about it because you're Mr. Swatch.
Well, there we go. But yes, they've actually taken a slightly different tact in this one. Obviously, there's been a plethora of models from the original collection through to the various Moon Gold or Moonshine Gold editions, through to the Snoopy editions, and all sorts in between. But this one here takes something and it's all new. In fact, so new that they have said they're going to patent it. So they've kind of turned things on its head. Instead of looking at the moon from the Earth, this is very much looking at the Earth from the moon. And they've invented an Earthphase. Obviously, many of you will be familiar with Moonphase. And before I move on, that is also included in this watch, but it has this new piece of technology, which is an Earthphase, as if you look at the Earth from the moon and you see what the Earth is doing, how it's behaving, and that has been incorporated into this watch as well. A light grey case, obviously that bioceramic plastic, but yes, that's on there. You've got a kind of grey textured dial that's meant to resemble the kind of lunar surface as well, coming in at very much the price point you would expect from the Moonphase editions of the MoonSwatch. I really like this. They've got a couple of little Easter eggs in there as well. The little cover for the battery on the caseback has got Neil Armstrong's foot on there. Normally it was a planet or something related to the watch, but I think that's a nice little touch as well, obviously giving a nod to that first moon landing. I think this is a cool looking watch. Unfortunately, this one is not going to be included in the online available models. It's only going to certainly initially be available through selected Swatch boutiques. So of course that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for people to get if you don't live close by one of those selected boutiques. Goes on sale November the 2nd. It's not limited edition, so I think the hype has definitely settled and died down a little bit. Might you be able to get one super quickly? Maybe not, but in a few weeks, I think if you can get to one of the stores selling it, you'll probably be able to get your hands on one. It seems that right across the pitch, whether the originals, the Snoopy editions, they're all a bit more easy to get your hands on these days. So yeah, really nice, cool looking little watch. So then, Ricky, what should we move on to?
Well, before we move on to anything, I want to ask why Teddy Ruxpin is wearing Joe 90 glasses.
Because it's Teddy Ruxpin dressing up as Joe 90. It's Halloween. Don't you know how this goes? I can't just be Teddy Ruxpin. I am Teddy Ruxpin.
Did you just say Teddy Ruxpin?
That's something very different.
Is there 4 of them?
It depends. He's very well equipped.
Never mind. Anyway, so we'll forget that. Obviously, look in the show notes if you want to see what Dave looks like, if you're not already scarred from seeing him before. But next week, we're going to talk about our travels, and it was the Siddiqui family. Obviously, they put on Dubai Watch Week, they put on Horology Forum, and they didn't let on anything about a new release that literally dropped in my inbox before we hit record. So today, the Tudor got announced, today the new MoonSwatch got announced, and today a new UN got announced. And this is a Freak X, and they've called it the Freak X Enamel Siddiqui Edition. Very similar to the one I've got, although mine is in carbonium, which is a resin colour and carbon mix. You do get ones that are in different precious metals, you get ones that are in titanium, and this one has got a beautiful enamel dial with a gear shape pattern on it. So very similar to what you've seen before. Perhaps the Gumball one that came out a couple of months ago, the collaboration in orange that Nico was parading around the world along with Matthew. This one, nicer coloration, I feel, more of a departure from the norm, and limited to 30 pieces. So yeah, this is one you want to have a wee look at, and if you're in the area and you're interested, go and grab it, because UN are doing really, really good things. We've been covering them a lot more in the last year, and I would say the last two and a bit years, maybe since they got away from Kering Group, maybe since Matthew has been pushing things along, and they finally got the recognition from GPHG for the Freak. Yeah, they've been on the up and up.
And again, what's really nice about this watch is they're leaning more into the Métier d'Art category of watches. The Freak, obviously well known for being a highly technical, highly sophisticated watch, lots of silicon, lots of high-tech materials typically used with this watch. But as part of the little group that involves Ulysse Nardin, and obviously my favourite brand that we'll not talk about because it's their sister brand, but they also own Dons Cadran, who are the producer of many, many fine enamel dials. So incorporating this really nice blue enamel dial, giving kind of feeling of the sea around the kind of Arabian peninsulas of where the Siddiqui family are located. It's a great look, and it's a nice kind of incorporation of that real classical traditional skills with the high-tech world of the Freak. A grey titanium case, so it's not really moving too far away from those high-tech roots that the brand is sited in. Black rubber strap. Fantastic looking watch, really nice collaboration. These 30 pieces will no doubt disappear. Coming in at 154,000 AED, which is a local currency for Siddiqui, which is around the 33,000 of your UK pounds. So definitely premium, but not ludicrously so that you might expect to pay for a watch with this level of attention and detail.
Correct, and that is kind of the end of our show. We've managed to get through things. It's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded, so we're a little bit rusty, but hopefully in the edit we can fix everything. And as always, make sure and listen to the podcast as well as watching us on YouTube. We generally only release one show per week on YouTube, and that is just due to timing and the amount of manpower we have got at the moment. On Spotify, you'll find 2 episodes, you'll find our news show and an interview show. That's where all the good stuff appears. So if you're watching us on YouTube and things are a little bit sparse, definitely check out Spotify, Google Play, whatever podcast player you're using, Apple Podcasts, etc., and you'll get the full array of shows. Saves you missing out. And that is about it, unless I've forgotten anything, Dave.
You've only forgotten to say, if you want to contact us, drop us an email, info@scottishwatches.co.uk. Please do not send us DMs on Instagram, because we'll probably not see them and it'll fall into the filing of junk and the bin. Outside of that, I think all that remains to be said, Ricky, is...
Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again soon. Live long and prosper.
Teddy's rule.